It is 6:30, and I am calling this meeting of the Carson City School Board of Trustees to order. I will begin before we do the adoption of the agenda with a moment of silence. Social worker Carmel Young of Borderwick Bray passed away on July 30th, and so we would like to honor her with a moment of silence. Thank you. And before we move on to agenda item 1, which is adoption of the agenda as submitted, I'd note that agenda item 17 has been pulled from the agenda. It is not ready for discussion at this time. And so at this time, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, I said 7, didn't I? Okay, sorry, I meant to say 7. So agenda item 7, we don't have that many tonight, so.
I'll move that we accept the agenda as submitted, omitting number 7.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by trustee Walker and a second by trustee Varner. Do we have any further discussion? Any public comment on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye, and the motion carries. We'll move on to agenda item 2, which is the flag salute. Trustee Casiopo has not yet arrived. Trustee Ramirez, would you be willing to lead us in the flag salute? Thank you.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You. And we'll go on to agenda item 3, which is the superintendent's report for information only. Mr. Fueling.
Thank you. I'm going to do this in a little bit of reverse order. So if you have been hearing this really faint sound of a school bell, it is growing louder, and I've noticed that, and I think others have. We are 6 days from the start of the school year, having kids return, which is incredible. On Monday, July 31st, school admin reported back, and on Wednesday the 2nd, new certified staff reported. Today, new classified staff had an orientation. I think we had about 50 people at the new classified event, and we had 71 at the moment with new certified staff. So lots of excitement and smiling faces all around. On Thursday the 10th, we have back to school events at Carson Middle and Eagle Valley. Friday the 11th, back to school events and meet and greets at Empire, Fritch, Fremont, and Mark Twain. So we will soon have students and parents coming into the building, so that's great. So Monday the 14th, first day of school for grades K through 12. The first 3 days for kindergarten are going to be state Brigance testing, so that will take up those first 3 days. Their first regular day will be Thursday. Thursday is the first day for pre-kindergarten. For pre-K, kids under new laws must be 4 years old on or before August 1st. For kindergarten, kids must be 5 years old on or before August 1st. This year is a single year. There's an exception in that if a child attended pre-K last year and their birth date is between August 1st and August 14th, they may enroll in kindergarten for this year only. Thursday, we have the kickoff event at Senator Field, and trustees, you're all invited to attend starting at 8 a.m. Just note, parking is going to be a problem. So I will be sending out a map here soon to try to help with that. There's some construction, not our construction, other people's construction going on the street that's causing some problems. We should be done by 8:30 a.m., so it'll be a quick event. So the last 2 days, I've spent a little time at Carson High School. students, freshmen, junior or sophomores, juniors, and seniors, all coming in, looking to get schedules, pay fees, parking passes. Freshmen were there today getting a tour from the Blue Crew. I did not receive one of the cool Blue Crew shirts, so I may have to talk to the new principal of Carson High School about that because they were pretty slick. And speaking of that, the Carson new principal from Carson High School happens to be here. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dan Carstens, who is, come on up. So you can, Dan, you can just sit down right up there and tap the button. Yeah, we expect this item to take about an hour, Mr. Carstens. So, yeah. So Mr. Carstens has quickly acclimated, I think, to Carson High and his staff. So we're definitely happy to see that. He was a principal for 12 years between Utah and Alaska, an assistant principal for 6 years, involved in all sorts of statewide leadership organizations for school administrators in Alaska. He started off as a math teacher. We won't hold that against him. Social studies is the way, but that's fine. And was a basketball and wrestling coach. So really, really excited to introduce Mr. Carstens to board members. And Mr. Carstens, if you'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, just push the button until the green light comes on. Perfect.
It's on. Well, cut me off when you need to. Basically, I feel very fortunate to be here in Carson City. It's a place where my wife and I were looking at a couple years ago, but there just not a lot of the positions were posted when I was looking. And when you're moving 2,500 miles, you kind of want to know where you're going. So that was a big thing for us. And so we ended up in Utah for a couple years, but I was extremely fortunate to be in Utah for a few years. I learned quite a bit about a couple of processes that I'm looking to put into place here at Carson High School. MTSS process, mainly Tier 1, and then we'll kind of build some committees for Tier 2 and 3. Also, PLC process, which I know we call it here a community of practitioners, so we'll change the vocab and make sure we use COP. But yeah, I've met with probably, I don't know, 25 or 30 of our staff members so far, with the goal of meeting with everybody before September is over, just to make sure I get to know everybody and just have that personal meet and greet with each and every one of them. So yeah, doing that and just making sure we prepare a good solid vision for the future of Carson High School. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any comments or questions from the board members?
I would just like to welcome you to Carson City, you and your wife. It's a great community. Carson High School, I think, is a great school. I think you'll fit in really well. We had an opportunity to chat a little bit while the other day, and I think you'll fit in real well. Maybe one problem, though. I told my granddaughter that we're getting a new principal, and she's a sophomore there, I'm sorry. And I told her your name. She goes, well, we'll just call him Mr. Carson.
Hey, I've been called much worse, so we'll take it. We'll take it.
So anyway, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And welcome aboard, Mr. Carstens. I ran into 2 staff members in the last week who are very happy so far with you, and so I look forward to continuing to hear good things.
Great. That's good to hear. Great feedback. Thank you for that.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, you got off the hook. All right. Thank you, Mr. Carstens. And that is all I have for this evening. President Crossman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fueling. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 4, which is board reports and board member comments for information only. We'll begin with a report on the Nevada Association of School Boards. Mr. Varner.
Yes, thank you. NASB's newsletter will be distributed soon, perhaps as early as tomorrow. Director Harris is requesting that NASB nominations be submitted by August 14th, and I know we're working on those tonight, so that shouldn't be a problem for us. The September 9th professional development training will be focused on multi-tiered system of support and conflict resolution and de-escalation skills. And then the 2023 yearly conference will be held on December 1st and 2nd at the Weston Lake in Las Vegas. And there should be a flyer coming out in the near future. And Director Harris also recommends that you reserve your spot as soon as possible, as the hotel rooms will fill up quickly.
So perhaps board members, if you're planning to attend that conference, let Renee know at the end of this meeting so she could make arrangements. Thank you. Do we have any reports for schools? Trustee Varner?
Yes. First of all, I just wanted to extend a warm welcome back to the staff, certified and classified staff that are returning to school, and also welcome the kids back to school this year. And I really just hope that everyone has a very productive and really a fun year in school this year. And then for Fritz, they're excited to start a new school year. They'll be welcome staff back, they said tomorrow, and students back on Monday. And they are going to be hosting their open house / ice cream social on Friday, August 11th from 4 to 6 p.m. And they invite everybody to attend. From Boardwalk Bray, they have parent meetings going on every night this week except for Friday, and the meetings are taking place between 6 and 7 p.m. They're asking all the parents to attend at least one meeting, and at these meetings they'll also be able to receive their child's classroom assignments. And they are excited to see all students back on Monday. And they also ask you to please save the date for their back to school night on September 13th from 5 to 7:30 p.m. And also, I'd just like to add that I have driven by and been at Carson High School, and I think the paint job is fantastic. It looks a lot better. So I know it's a lot of money, but it is really worth it. So, and that'll conclude my report.
Thank you. Trustee Walker. Trustee Wald.
Yeah, kudos to Carson High looks great. Kudos to the colors. So I don't know, Mr. Fueling, if you have anything, have you heard anything about the Park Terrace Park? Have you heard back from, I know I didn't email until yesterday in hopes to get a report back from Jennifer, but have you heard anything?
I haven't heard back. So I received an email, I think it was last week, maybe a week and a half, responding kind of the history of how that area developed and some kind of some historical documents related to that. And it sounded like there was potential interest in trying to look at doing something with a portion of the park in terms of what we were talking about and trying to fence it in. So I haven't heard any. I responded to that saying, you know, we are certainly interested in moving that direction, but I haven't heard back anything since. So I can follow up again and just see where that is.
Thank you. And then Empire Elementary School's meet and greet is August 11th, 3 to 4. But I have a question of the board. If you weren't able to attend both, you know, for like the schools that you are, if you can either do the meet or greet or the open house, which one do you suggest we attend for the new board members?
I would think whatever fits into your schedule best. If you've got one that you can make and you can't make another one, I think, and if you can't make those opportunities, because that really is for the parents, and if you don't have a student at that school, you can always contact the principal and arrange a visit at the school at a different time too. So whatever is most convenient for you.
Yeah, I would just add, they both have merit. I kind of like the open house if you're not familiar with the school, because you get kind of a broader idea of what's available at the school, what they're offering, whereas the meet and greet, is, more class specific is what I found in the past. They change it oftentimes, but that's kind of what I found when my kids were going through.
Okay, trustee Clapham. Okay, trustee Ramirez.
So from Silverger Elementary School, they will have their open house on the 17th of August at 5:30, from 5:30 to 7. And Mrs. Zona also welcomes Mrs. Carrie Pryor as their new vice principal. She's very excited to have her as part of her staff. And then she reminds the parents to get the children to school on time. And she thanks the parents in advance for working with her and her staff to ensure they have a smooth year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, trustee Cassiopo.
Yeah, hi, no report, but I would just wanted to say I was at Boardwalk Bray yesterday, and, and I'm sure it's that way for all the schools. I mean, the administration's back, the staff's back, and there's just a lot going on. It's kind of fun to see everybody back getting ready for the school year. And, folks are excited. So, like Trustee Varner said, looking forward to a fun and, valuable school year. I think, people tend to get tired as the school year progresses, but we do a lot of good things here. And so it's nice to see staff back and motivated.
Thank you. And for my report, I was at Carson High this morning for a little bit for the freshman orientation, and there's a lot of good energy going on with the freshman group coming in. I personally know quite a few of them, and there's a good group of kids in that group, so I've got good things to say about them. Also, for Fremont Elementary School, they are going to have their back to school night at 4:30 this Friday for all students, and kindergarten students will get to explore the school and sign up for their testing time. And then a special night just for kindergarten will be held on August 16th, one session at 4:30 and another at 5:30. And they're looking forward to their parent night at Fremont on August 30th at 5:30. And they're also excited about all of their new hires and all the excitement they have for the new school year. So that concludes my report. And if there are no other board comments, we will go ahead and move on to agenda item 5, which is association reports for discussion only. Do we have any association reports tonight? I'm seeing none, so we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 6, which is public comment. Mrs. Cortez informed me that we have received no email public comment. If there's anyone interested in making public comment tonight, I'll go ahead and read it. So give me a wave if you're interested. If not, we will go ahead and close public comment and move on to agenda item 8, because we have moved agenda item 7. And so agenda item 8 is discussion and possible action to approve proposed changes to CCSD policy 405, employment status, second reading. For possible action, Mr. Dan Sadler.
Thank you, President Crossman, members of the board. Good evening. Bring to you tonight for a second reading specific to policy 405, impacting classified staff. Current policy reads that the probationary period is for 12 months. And that after the completion of 6 months, an evaluation report is required. And just to kind of take us back to the last time we met during our negotiations with CESA, we had a lot of discussion about possibly changing this to a 6-month probationary period, and that is what we're seeking to change here, with a 3-month evaluation due and complete as well. And I can certainly review some more of what I shared last time, but I don't know if that is appropriate, or if you just want to discuss amongst yourselves.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Sadler from board members? Go ahead.
Hey, Dan, I'm just wondering, so 6 months seems odd looking at a school year. Did you contemplate maybe just doing 9 months? So it was like a full school year type deal?
We didn't discuss 9 months. Really what we were trying to do is shorten that probationary period to a couple things. Number one, to get into the evaluation process sooner and make sure that that employee is getting feedback, because if there's improvement needed, we need that to be given to the employee earlier on. If we need to provide plan of assistance to get that going sooner rather than later. With retention of our employees really being critical importance, this has been discussed as a pathway for retention, to keep people here. I know the policy was implemented in 1979 and hasn't been changed since then. There's certainly pros and cons to a year versus 6 months, but just given the current climate of hiring and competition in other districts and other industries, we see this as something that we can promote very positively with our employees. But no, we did not discuss 9 months. We just discussed 6 months.
Trustee Cassiopolo.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, if we vote on this and this changes, when does it go into effect? I'm assuming folks that just signed contracts are, like new teachers, are they're bound to the 12-month, or do they get a contract amendment that says now they're going to be 6 months?
So we already put into the agreement language that it would be 6 months. So if this was supported, we're good to go with the agreement. It's specific just to classified employees, not teachers. Teacher is set by NRS as a 3-year probationary period. So we do have that already in our agreement. If it is not approved, then we would need to do an MOU with the agreement to adjust.
Do we have any other questions? Go ahead, Trustee Varner.
I'm opposed to it, as I stated at our last meeting. I think 6 months, most people, they may not even be aware of what the job is fully in a 6-month period of time. And then I'm also curious, we do an evaluation at 3 months, but there's no mention of a evaluation before they would get off their 6-month probation if this passes. Would that be the case? They'd have to do a 3-month and a 6-month evaluation before they would get off?
Correct. 3-month evaluation, a 6-month evaluation. And if there was still improvement needed at 6 months, then the probationary period could be extended.
Okay. Well, there again, I'll just repeat, I'm opposed to reducing from 12 months to 6 months.
Go ahead, Trustee Walt.
For the new hires that, for the majority, I think there were 71, when did their contract start?
Number 71 was specific to teachers. We had 50 classified, but the 71 teachers came back last week. They have a contract of 183 days, but as a new hire, they come in a few days earlier. With the classified employees, if they're year-round employees, some of them have already started. If they're tied to the school year calendar, their first day was today for the orientation, and then their official contract first day would be Friday.
So their 6 months would be around Christmas vacation.
People who would be starting right now, 6 months of employment puts them right about February.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Could you, and I know I wasn't at the last meeting, could you provide what's the rationale? Like, what's the argument for the change? And, I think that either way, the administrator is going to be observing their employees. In my mind, I'm trying to figure out what's that going to change?
So one of the reasons this came up is because probationary employees, due to the current language of Policy 405, are not allowed to promote on the salary schedule until they've completed their probationary status. And we've had a few situations over the past 2 years, past year that I was involved in, where we had a vacant position, no applicants, and we had an interested person in district who was probationary who could not apply for that position as an employee, but could resign from their position and apply for the position and be hired for it. So that really kind of brought some questions to me in human resources, like, that's not really the way we want to treat our employees. And if we have positions that are available, that are vacant, and we have qualified people who are currently working for us, we want to promote that growth. And that's certainly something that we're having some deeper discussions about specific for our classified employees. I think we focus a lot on our teachers, and there's lots of opportunity there. And there's some area for growth specific to classified. So that's really kind of what started the conversation.
Is that a provision in the classified contract, or is that an HR policy that, because I believe you or AJ should be able to, sign off on a change like that.
It's
in my
board
mind.
policy.
Okay.
Yeah,
board policy.
it is written into 405.
But that could be changed easily though, right?
That's what we're hoping to do tonight.
No, I mean, but to allow them to promote within a 12-month period of time.
It would require
board-
a revision of the policy either way.
Right. But that could happen.
Trustee Ramirez, did you want to say something? It looks like.
I'm ready to make a motion if no one else has any other
Oh.
questions.
Okay.
And again, like Trustee Walker, I wasn't here last meeting, so I apologize. I understand the pro. From your perspective, what do you see as a potential con to changing it to 6 months? Like you said, there's pros and cons, but do you see much of a con for a 6 month?
I looked up a bunch of cons. I don't know that I agreed with them necessarily. I think in a very traditional sense of a workplace, 1 year made sense for a very long time. And I think it gives people a longer time to improve, a longer time to get to know employees. Like those are certainly benefits of keeping a longer probationary period. I think if you were going to need to terminate somebody, keeping a longer probationary period, there are certain protections that are built in for post-probationary status that you do not have as a probationary employee. So I would say that would probably be something to consider.
When I think about it, there's so much turnover with some of these positions at all of our schools. And so sometimes the people you start the year with are not the people you end the year with. And so there are times when I'll hire someone and then their probation spans more than a school year. So, I mean, I could see both sides of it. So I just was trying to kind of get the rationale of what was the push.
Well, and I think you've expressed that other districts around us, the most they have is a 6-month probationary period. Is that correct, Mr. Sadler?
That's correct, yeah.
And some are moving towards 90
Toward-
days and 30.
Some are going 3 months.
Okay, so to me, it makes sense to be competitive. And we are still facing staffing shortages to a certain extent. So,
I guess the only thing I worry about, and I know we have shortages, we still have to keep our standards high too. And I think that we're dealing with children in schools and we want to make sure that we have the best candidates in there. And so I could see the concern. I mean, and I'm supportive of what you're trying to do, but at the same time, I don't want to get stuck with people who are not best to be working with kids. You know?
Certainly. And Trustee Walker, just since you weren't here last time, there's a couple things that are going along with this discussion. First and foremost is also a change in the classified evaluation tool itself. You might remember the tool where it's just some check boxes and then you fill out a couple paragraphs and yeah. So that's been upgraded to include rubrics for scoring so that there's some conversation starters about specific feedback. And that's really an important piece of this as well that is often missing from the classified evaluation. And so I think if we're able to move this change forward in conjunction with the new classified evaluation, there's going to be a heightened awareness from supervisors to really get that process going. Often we've had classified employees who haven't received feedback until beyond the fact that they've been here for a year. And by default, those folks have received a very generic satisfactory evaluation with no feedback and become post-probationary employees. So
Kind of on that same note, I'm thinking about our administrators.
mhm.
And the NEPF stipulates that they're observing new employees by this date of the school year.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's going to all coincide right there. And so have you had any pushback from administrators about this?
Administrators were very supportive of last week when I presented this to them. Important to note also that the classified evaluation tool is utilized by not only administrators, but also classified supervisors, office managers, anybody who's in a position where they're supervising another employee.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other further questions or comments? Go ahead, trustee.
Just
Warner.
one more. You stated the last meeting and this meeting again just now that some of the evaluations were not completed until after the 12-month period. How are we going to ensure that a 3-month evaluation is completed timely, and then the 6-month evaluation completed timely and completely before someone's released from probation?
That's a good question, and I've thought a lot about that. That's where I come in with my team to ensure that there's a 2-week window notification for that supervisor as a reminder that they have an evaluation upcoming, as well as a reminder to submit that to Human Resources. The good thing about the new evaluation tool that we'll be piloting this school year is that it's now digital, and it doesn't require someone to fill it out and then photocopy it and send in a photocopy. They can submit it digitally. So that the process of completing the evaluation, while still thorough, is condensed into a time frame that makes a lot more sense for people who are completing it. And I will be managing that.
So with that, I know you mentioned that last meeting, and that is where, I kind of flipped from one side to the other, thinking 6 months to 12 months is the new evaluation platform. Before, I'm not quite sure how HR would track, who's up for evaluation and, how, giving them that notice, that 2-week window saying, hey, in 2 weeks, so-and-so's up for an evaluation. I'm not quite sure how they did it prior to, but knowing that it's digital and knowing that there's going to be alerts, you're going to be alerted when your office is going to be alerted when somebody's evaluation needs to be done, when it's not been done, when it's not been completed and submitted. I think that is, that kind of checks and balances is where, I went and said, okay, I think 6 months, just so we know that it's getting done and in a timely manner. Because it will give you like a red flag, I'm assuming,
Correct.
if it's overdue.
Do we have any other comments or questions from board members? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve August 8, 2023 as a revised date for Policy 405, Employment Status.
We have a motion by trustee Ramirez and a second by trustee Walt. Do we have any further board discussion? Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The vote is 6-1, and the motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Sadler.
Thank you for the discussion and the support. Appreciate it.
And you can stick around. Oh, wait, no. No, that is. You get to stay. I'm sorry. I'm making sure I'm on the right number. So now you are on agenda item 9, which is informational update on staffing for the Carson City School District for discussion only. Mr. Sadler.
Hold on one second here. All right, so last year on August 9th, I gave you an update of just kind of where we're at with hiring. I just wanted to do the same tonight and share some good news and some of the celebrations and certainly some of the challenges we're working through, and then see if I can answer any questions for you. So this really is just kind of an update. First, I want to share on the left side here, 8/9/22. Last time I presented, these were the vacancies that we had posted. On the right side, you'll see the vacancies that we have posted as of today. I'll be honest, this was actually as of yesterday because I did not update it today. But just kind of combing through the list, you can see that we have fewer vacancies for certified special education, classified, and classified special education. So I'll share some data with you here specific to that. The positions that are listed below there, community partners, part-time certified, classified, school nurse, actually school nurse is not one of those, and student worker, those are positions that we have ongoing all the time. So those vacancies will always be posted and look the way that they do, so that those numbers don't really skew our data. But we definitely have been busy. So as far as the vacancy rate reduction, the percentage from August of last year to August of this year, this is a huge celebration. And it's not to say we're done. I mean, our work is never done. It's always a moving target when it comes to recruitment and certainly with retention. So 52% fewer vacancies for our certified staff is a huge win. And to make that much progress in 1 year has been a complete team effort. When I say team, it's really been district-wide. This is not me up here boasting the work that I do, but I've got an awesome HR team. We've got awesome administrators who've become part of that conversation, working with our certified and classified teachers, becoming part of the radar team. Certainly with your involvement and supporting the new agreements, there's a lot of moving parts here. But it is a celebration to see that data starting to move. The number of positions that we filled, I think Mr. Fueling mentioned earlier that we had 71 certified staff last week at the new hire event, and then we had over 50 today for classified. So those are the highest numbers that we've ever had. And so that's a huge celebration in that we've gotten to hire qualified people for these positions to bring them in. I think the downside of it is that it highlights that we've had trouble retaining employees. And so that's really the focus for future recruitment is how do we keep people here, the good people that we have working for this district. How do we do a better job in supporting what they need to grow in their capacity as employees of this district, ultimately so that they're supporting our students in a way that they're growing, but then also creating, a stronger connection as a school community with our employees. So this is just kind of a rundown of the positions that we have filled. You'll notice the critical labor shortage, I have question marks because we have people who retired this past school year who are not yet eligible to be identified for hire. They are eligible to apply and they are applying. And we anticipate that we will make some of those hires, but we can't have those conversations with them until they receive their first paycheck from PERS. So I will anticipate that we will be hiring a few of those people for critical labor shortages and that the number of vacancies that we have, particularly in the certified, are going to continue to go down. Just a breakdown of what the current vacancies are that we have by site. You can see Eagle Valley there, intervention specialist and a science teacher. The middle school positions are listed 6th through 8th because they could be at any of those grade levels. Carson Middle School, again, science teacher, social studies, and alternate standards program teacher in special education, the ASP, formerly CLS. Carson High School, NJROTC instructor, that's been a really hard one to get any traction with. We put that on national job boards, worked with the current instructors over there to get it on the Navy job boards, and that's just a very specialized position to really, we just haven't had any interest in it yet. So we'll continue to explore options there. Computer science teacher, 1 year only position, social studies teacher, 1 year only, LD special ed teacher. And then you can see on the right side, position for Pioneer Academy, Fremont Elementary School, Mark Twain Elementary School, and then student support services with psychologists. So that appears to be a lot of positions, but this is a huge win because this is a combination of our special education certified and our regular certified positions, and this number is down significantly. In conversations with the school principals, there's plans in place. We do have a handful of long-term subs. I think we have 8 long-term subs in place to start the school year. We're thankful for their support. Ideally, we want to have a certified teacher in every classroom, but the fact that we have people who have been serving our district as a long-term sub that are willing to come back and help us out is a great celebration. And some of those long-term subs will transition to becoming certified teachers during this school year as part of our iTeach partnership in completing their alternative routes to licensure. Yes, sir.
A couple of questions. What for for ROTC instructor, do we have an interim person, or what happens with the program until we find an instructor?
So we do have 2 instructors still on staff. And the conversation with them has been that they've got it covered for now. They've got a way to make it work. AJ, I know you've had conversations with them as well, if you want to chime in.
I would, so we had a similar situation when, back about 5 years ago, when the numbers of students was growing pretty rapidly. And the 2 staff that were there recognized that it was beyond what they could do to manage that entire program. So we posted a position, but for months they were handling that. So they're certainly able to do it. It's not an ideal situation.
Okay.
But
But the program goes on.
yeah.
Yeah. And then on the 1-year only hires, I would guess those are hard positions to fill, a 1-year only contract, but what's the rationale behind 1-year only?
Yeah, so the 1-year only with the computer science, we have students at both Carson High School and Pioneer High School that still need to complete the computer science credit. And we don't have additional staff to be able to do that. So the thought there is that with this 1-year position, we'll be able to get those students caught up. And we do have a couple of applicants for that we won't be able to discuss until late August, I think.
Okay.
But we anticipate filling that position.
Oh, okay.
The social studies 1-year only is a replacement, kind of a holding position, because we had a teacher from Carson High School who was hired as a Dean TOSA. And so this is his position posted as a 1-year only. Should he choose to go back to the classroom, he would go back to that position. If he chooses to stay as the dean, then that position will become a standard agreement.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
This is just a rundown of the classified vacancies by site, and we're used to the custodian being posted here as something that's really been hard to fill, and we've had a lot of good fortune with hiring custodians. So we currently have 1 position posted, and again, we do have applicants. We anticipate filling that here shortly if it hasn't already been filled today, and I'm just not aware of it. I would say overall, the position that is probably our greatest need right now would be the paraprofessional position. And we are working through some applications on that, but we have just had so many vacancies for the special education paraprofessional positions that it's been kind of a slow grind to really identify people who want to come in and do that. So you'll see those, like Carson Middle School has 4 posted, Student Support has 2 posted, Fremont has 3 posted, Bordewick Bray has 1 posted. Bus driver positions, we still have posted, but we're in much better shape than we've been in the past, and we have a lot more interest, people coming in who want to drive a bus for us. So we're very excited about that. No plans at this point to change the routes up based on what we did last year, but in talking with Cherie Fletcher, she's got things covered for right now, and we're looking much better than we did previously with bus drivers. And I anticipate that with the new pay scales and the rates going up for bus drivers, that's going to make that a little bit more attractive for people coming in who do have a CDL or who might want to get their CDL, and we can help them with that.
How many, and this may not be something that you can answer right now, but how many more bus drivers would it take to get for athletics not to have to leave 5 hours before a game? So like, for example, soccer, the game starts at 5 o'clock and they're leaving, for Worcester at 11.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're, I know parents are complaining because it's taking the kids out of a long day of school.
Yeah.
But how many more?
It's a really good question, but it's a very complicated answer because of the way that those positions are picked up for the assignment for who's driving the bus. And so I think my answer would say, well, if we had 10 more drivers, then we've got more people who are willing to pick up those extra routes. If we don't have 10 extra drivers, and that number is actually inflated. I think if we were to look at when we didn't have a shortage of drivers, I think the number is more like 7 positions that we've been down over the years. And having hired, I think we had 3 drivers in our new hire training today. I think that number might be down to 4 from what we had as previous staffing levels. So that doesn't answer the question as far as specific to athletics because of the way that those routes are set up, that people pick those routes up as extras. They're not necessarily
Part of their, okay.
correct.
Okay, so they're an extra income or extra hours if they wanted them.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
With the bus driver, increase in bus drivers, have we been able to decrease the walking distance to and from school?
Not at this time. Last year, we were making modifications because we were so short. And when I had a conversation with Sheree about that question in particular, she said, we're not in a position to go back and change that yet. Kind of back to Trustee Walt's question, I think if we had an additional 4 drivers, then we might be able to sit down and see what we could do. But we're still down numbers from where we were 2-3 years ago.
Just a confirmation for the athletes that are traveling. We did change our board policy to allow parents to drive them to events. Is that still in place?
As far as I know, yes. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
If I could add, so the walk distance, if I recall last year, we did not change the elementary, but I think it was the secondary that was increased by a quarter mile. And then within that process, 2 routes were reduced. So, and I apologize, Mr. Sadler, if you said this, but so effectively there's 2 potential positions that no longer exist. If we ever got to a point and added, like you said, the 4 back, then we could go back to what it was, and then we'd definitely be able to service all those kids. One of the things within transportation that we've been trying to do over the last year is to get at least some more vehicles, some like 15-seat vans, or 7 or 8 seat, like an Expedition, some larger SUVs, just so that at least some of the smaller groups might have another option if a bus is not available, because what you mentioned, Trustee Wall, is clearly not what we want. So we've been trying to hit it from a couple angles, but as Mr. Sadler stated, we're hopeful that the new bus drivers will come in, and maybe we can eventually get back to where we were.
Yeah, the transportation breakdown here can kind of get confusing as well. Bus driver, like you see there's not a number posted there because at this point, we'll hire anybody that wants to come go through that process. The commercial driver license, they want to be a bus driver. Like, we're not limited to just saying 1 or 2 positions. The special education bus driver position looks a little bit different as far as those routes. The bus driver substitute, again, looks different. And then we actually have one that's not listed here that's a part-time bus driver position. And that's something new that we added last year. We had someone who was interested that drives for, I think it was UPS. And he's on 1 week with UPS, and then he was off for a week. And he said, I'd love to come work for you. But given the way we had our position structured, that wasn't an option. They had to be a full-time employee. So we have created a part-time bus driver schedule as well, because if someone has the desire to come help us out as a bus driver and they have that license, we'd love to have them. And we don't want to tell them, no, if you can't work for us full-time, we don't want you. That's clearly not the case. We can plug them in here and there when they're able to help us. Again, ongoing vacancies, these are posted at all times, things that we're still in need of. Substitute teachers, I checked today, we still had 133 substitute teachers on the books. We'll go through that list here in the next couple of weeks and be cleaning it up. Sometimes people are saying, oh, I'm moving on, I'm not doing that anymore. But we anticipate having over 100 subs available for us this school year. Substitute school nurse, ESL paraprofessional, special education paraprofessional. Though if anybody's watching and they're interested in the special education paraprofessional substitute, give me a call because we've got a lot of vacancies for that as a full-time benefited position. So again, these are just positions that are always posted and we're always looking for people. There's also some additions here, like I mentioned, the part-time bus driver. We've added some additional student worker positions this school year with the Avid tutor and IT and seasonal groundskeeper. So there's a celebration in some of these vacancies in that we've added some positions.
That student worker position, is that a paid position?
It is a paid
It
position.
is.
You have a student looking? Yeah.
Well, not my kids, but I know a lot of kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are posted, all the job descriptions for those are on the website. Something I'll highlight that is isn't on my script, but when you go to the district website right now and look at positions, they're all listed by title, but often people who are looking for positions aren't really familiar with education language and like, what is a paraprofessional? What does that person do? And what does it pay for? And while it might be good for them to dig into the job description and see some of those things, historically, we haven't posted the actual salary ranges on classified positions. So that is a change that we're making in human resources so that they're posted. And actually, what we're going to do on the actual title, so let's say that administrative assistant 1 position, we'll just have a dash next to it with the hourly range. So that's the first thing people see, so they can see kind of the range of these positions as well. That's Mr. Fueling's clever addition to there. All right, a couple more slides here for you. This is pulled directly out of Frontline, which houses our application system. And what you're looking at here on the graph, the blue color where it's listed A, that is representing Carson City School District, and then the aqua B is representing the national average of all school districts that utilize Frontline. And so that's 1,523 educational organizations, and they range from very small school districts to very large metropolitan school districts and everything in between. We're classified as a medium-sized district, but just so you know that this data is looking at Carson City School District versus all other school districts that utilize Frontline. So they don't capture every district in the United States, but there's a lot of them there. This is something I wanted to highlight because specific to our classified positions last year, we moved up the transfer process quite a bit earlier than it had been in the past. And we worked with OCEA on this to allow us to open those transfer positions. If we knew we had a vacancy last December, we created a list of those vacancies, posted them in January to start that in-district transfer process much earlier than we've done it in the past and much earlier than other school districts, certainly in Northern Nevada, and also, as you see here, nationally. So the reason you see this data here is just to really celebrate that made a huge difference. If you see the line graph that's kind of behind it, you can see that in January we had, and I should say that each of these bars represents 10 positions, right? So we averaged, what is that? Just under 10, 20, 30, 40 positions in January that were posted. And you can see we didn't have many applicants, but as we moved through February, that number goes up and it continues to climb in March. And it's actually a really good thing that it starts coming down in April and May because guess what? We filled those positions, right? So we had a lot of positions posted and we were able to fill those positions. So we had only a few vacancies really that were hanging out after we completed that initial hiring phase in January. Yes.
How many job fairs did you attend?
So, yeah, we hosted 3 local job fairs. I want to say we averaged over 40 people who showed up at the local job fairs. I did 1 virtual career fair, and Mr. Fueling attended that one with me, which was basically me on Zoom in my office, but we did actually hire a teacher from Michigan with that virtual career fair. We attended education career fair at University of Arizona, University of Wyoming, University of Montana, and Black Hills State University in South Dakota. We have a lot of interest, but mostly it was people who were underclassmen. So we'll kind of see how that pays off this year. Utilizing some of the recruitment tools that we have, Handshake being one of those tools, which I'd love to share more about that with you if you want to stop by the district office sometime. We can communicate with candidates that we met at that career fair last year. It's kind of like LinkedIn for college students with Handshake. And anticipate going to, we learned a lot last year as well about recruiting, Arizona being one that the state of Arizona has been very wise in that if you are a resident of Arizona and you major in education and go to a state school, guess what? If you graduate and teach in the state of Arizona, they'll pay for all of your student debt for the first 3 years. So there was like a lot of people saying, oh, I'd love to live close to Lake Tahoe, but there's no way I'm leaving Arizona because they're going to pay off my bills. So we're not going to be recruiting out of Arizona. Montana, there was a lot of interest from underclassmen. Black Hills State University, which they've got it's a small university, but a very large education program. lot of interest. So we'll be doing a lot of follow-up recruitment this year and kind of measure what our return on investment is from those trips this year. But really, virtual recruiting is the best bang for our buck that we can see right now. And you can see at the top there just some more information for you. We're averaging 29 new applicants per week, and this is overall certified and classified positions. The average number of days to fill vacancies is currently 14, and then the most popular recruitment effort that we've tracked through our application system is job fairs. Last year it was word of mouth, and job fair has replaced that. So that's a celebration for the efforts of our team in human resources. The average number of days to fill vacancies is something that we need to work a little bit more closely with our associations on, because there is guaranteed language in the agreements as far as what it looks like. So certified, we post on-site for 5 days, then we post in-district for 5 days, and then we can consider outside applicants. Classified automatically 10 days before we could consider outside applicants. And that's really a benefit to our current employees who want to move into those positions. But that time to hire really slows things down. So we know we're also losing some really good candidates who put in for a position, they don't even hear anything for 2.5 weeks. So we're going to have some conversations about what we might be able to do there in partnership with our associations. This slide just represents applicants by year of experience, that you can see that again, Carson City School District is represented in the blue. National average is represented in the aqua. So just under 20% of our applicants have less than 1 year of experience, but then you see it starts to go up 1 to 3 years, 4 to 6 years, 7 to 9 years. And we're not way above the national average, but to be above the national average pretty much across the board, I think is a good thing for us as well. Because if you can see the insight there, if you have a higher than average percentage of inexperienced applicants, or on the left side of this graph, that indicates that you're having higher levels of turnover. And just about ready to wrap things up here, just sharing some things that are working. I mentioned local career fairs averaging 35 new applicants per event. There's that number. Application revamp, making that process easier and faster. It's been pretty clunky over the years, so we're speeding that process up. Not collecting all the documents up front if we don't need to. Some of these we can get on the back end. Social media, branding, and marketing has been something that has helped us out quite a bit. Lead generation, this is something that we're really getting into this semester. Applications, as an example, a lot of people go fill out an application, but they don't submit it. And if we're not combing through those applications and reaching out to those people, and maybe they got stuck, maybe they thought they submitted it, maybe they had a change of heart. But much like people would in the sales workforce, when we have leads, we want to follow up on those leads. So we're kind of taking the lead with that in human resources, and we'll be involving our school administrators and department supervisors in that conversation as well. Virtual career fairs, again, working with Handshake, we have a partnership with them. We'll continue that. I get the regional career fairs that I listed. Oh, I forgot University of Nevada. We attended that one as well. I Teach partnership. We have 9 ARL teachers for the 23-24 school year. And then competitive salaries, that's been working as well. And we're always learning. Like we don't have this all figured out. It's very competitive. We compete with all industries right now for employees. There's a lot more that we can do. We're looking at other ways and other supports to learn about recruitment and retention, and possibly adding to our toolbox. So things that we're always looking to do. Any questions?
I just don't so much have a question, but I do have a comment. I want you to know that we truly appreciate the work that you and your team have been doing. I think you guys are doing an outstanding job. It's obvious to see in your detailed report here tonight that progress is being made. And I just wanted to thank you for the work that you and your team are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Sadler. Just a thought I had with the vacancies that we continue to have with our special education parapros. Do you have anything planned to extra recruitment, some sort of initiative to fill those positions?
Yeah, so as an example, really doing targeted career events and doing them at the sites. So I spoke with Dr. Ward earlier today and I said, hey, I signed up for a couple events I'm going to. Tell me about this one. I want to set up a table and I really want to highlight the vacancies at your site. So she said, no, don't go to that one, go to this one. I'll have way more people. So I'll be between myself and Ariel and our team setting up a booth and really just getting out and talking to people at sites when we have evening events. Community events, we're going to attend some other local career fairs. I know there's one here at the community center coming up that we're going to attend. And when we do those, certainly we're always open to highlight any of our positions, but we'll be specifically marketing paraprofessional positions as a job that we want to talk to people about. Also going to be working with Dan Davis to do some videos specific to, like, what does a parapro do? And then going out to the sites and getting some film on people who'd be willing to allow us to highlight them and the work they do as a paraprofessional. And then getting those up on our website, certainly, but then also sharing those when we do virtual career events. So people know, like, oh, maybe that's something I'd be good at. And it's also a great path to the classroom. And so I know years ago when we talked about ARLs, I was like, oh, I don't know, we want trained people who've gone through education programs, and we do, but we really do value the partnership that we have with iTeach and the opportunity to work with people who want to come work with our students and they want to learn and they're committed to their growth and learning. That has been really positive so far. So we hope to continue to highlight that as a path for current classified employees who receive a bachelor's degree to be able to move into teaching.
Thank you for that update. I was just going to say I know special education parapros, it can be a really difficult position, but it can also be a very fulfilling position. And I know what a fantastic impact they can have on the students. So if anybody out there is willing to fill in and help a kid change, I mean, you're literally helping to change a kid's life. So I think those are good positions. Trustee Varner, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, on your exit interviews, the special ed parapros who are leaving, what's the main theme and why they leave?
Pay and student behavior.
Well, we raised the pay, so hopefully that'll help.
Well, and I also think a lot of the things that we're putting in place as a district for student behavior and supports for the classroom and our students are going to be impacting that impacting our students, impacting our learning environments in a positive way this school year.
Thank you, Mr. Sadler. Are there any other questions?
Just a suggestion, please keep WNC as one of your places to recruit, because I know that the counselors especially have a lot of connections with students that are graduating or that may be interested in a paraprofessional position.
Absolutely, and I thank you for mentioning that. That's a great suggestion, and I should have had WNC on our slide because we did attend a career fair event at WNC last year, and we'll continue that as well this year. And I think what we're going to look at doing locally, attending a career event is one thing, but then like hosting a career event is a whole nother conversation where we can give a presentation and talk about positions. And so it's not just being there with a table and talking to people, but really saying, hey, come have lunch with us. Let's talk about career opportunities in our district. So I think WNC would be a good partner for that type of venue.
And I just recently learned that they are looking into getting a handshake on board.
Great.
So yeah, so that'll
Very
be a
good.
good one. Yeah.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 10, which is discussion and possible action to approve the Nevada Association of School Boards NASB nominations to be considered for recognition during the 2023 annual conference. For possible action, Laurel Crossman is leading this. So we've got some good information and we had some recommendations. I would just say there's Carson City has been really good about nominating someone in every category, which is fantastic because I think that recognizes our people. Some of the places that we have been successful in having people recognized, we might not get selected by NASB again. So, but we can still submit it. So anyway, I'm opening the floor to anyone who'd like to make some comments and share some recommendations on this.
If it's all right, I'll go ahead and start. Some of my recommendations, I felt that School Administrator of the Year, maybe Mrs. Cheryl Ketta, Principal Boardwick Bray. School District Employee Making a Difference, Miss Mary Prey. She's the Professional Learning Coordinator, Family Engagement Coordinator. She is exceptional at planning and implementing the professional learning days for the district and the new hire training she puts on in August and throughout the year. She's taken on the responsibility of Family Engagement Coordinator. She recently developed and facilitated Ready to Rock kindergarten information nights at the elementary schools and successfully acted as administrator for the 8-day kindergarten readiness program. And I'm sure there's a lot more that she does that Mrs. Fuson said if she's selected, she would help us identify and write the recommendation letter. Then moving on, district level administrator of the year. I recommend Mr. Daniel Sadler, Associate Superintendent, Human Resources. Since being promoted, he has dramatically improved the overall operation of the department. He's coordinated, as we heard tonight, and held several job fairs, increased the district job opening advertisements, improved the successful hiring of qualified applicants. He's been instrumental in having hard-to-fill positions designated as critical need positions. He's readily accessible for employees who have questions or need to talk to him. And he played an integral part in the recent bargaining sessions with the employee associations, along with everything else he does. So I would recommend him for that nomination. And then for the NASB Award to a friend of K-12 public education, I would recommend Steve Reynolds, who's a volunteer president of the Carson City School Foundations. He's been a member of the Carson City School Foundation for numerous years. He's been the president of the foundation and still is. During this time, the foundation raised money for the following. They provide mini grants each year to assist staff with their efforts to provide quality education to the children in the district. They raise funds to pay for the textbooks used by Jump Start students, and they're raising money to help defray some of the costs associated with the AP exams. And they always hold events at the end of the year expressing their appreciation to school staff by providing donuts in conjunction with the Greater Nevada Credit Union. So they do a lot for the school, and I think he'd be a good candidate for that position. And I can go on, but I don't know if you want to open up for somebody else, because I would recommend Renee Cortez for the NASB Board Secretary, as we have brought up several times. And for obvious reasons, I feel personally that she's probably one of the hardest working employees of the district. She's always on top of all things related to the board business, prepares, compiles, and distributes meeting agenda and board packets. Always very well done, very well complete. She ensures proper notification agendas, has a deep understanding of the board's operations. She's always available to answer questions, and most time has the correct answer. If not, she gets it. And then she prepares and distributes minutes of all board meetings with minimal or no corrections. And one of the most important things in my mind also is she always has a friendly and positive attitude, no matter how busy she is. And I feel she's the backbone of the board. And then for the superintendent of the year, I would nominate Andrew Fueling. He's only been here he was selected in July 22. After being selected, he has met with all the groups, all the employees the best he can. He's always been available for us, the trustees, other district staffs, attends the most school events during school or after school. He's been very responsive to the concerns of the trustees and willing to talk with us and answer questions they may have. He possesses a good sense of humor and has a even keel disposition. He's ensures the district has remained in good fiscal shape financially, well liked by district staff and members of the community. He attends community meetings, ensures compliance with district strategic plan. And I can go on and on, well liked, respected, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my suggestions for nominations.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who wants to mention, or do we want to go ahead?
Well, I think I got this wrong. So I thought that if it wasn't in our board packet, we couldn't go outside of that. So
I believe this agenda item is open for any board member. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Russell, but any board member can make a recommendation as to who they think tonight, as to who they would like to nominate, and we can decide on it. So it does, if the board packet is the trustees who submitted information to Renee. Some of us had other things by the due date. Some of us had other things happening and didn't do the due date. But that doesn't, Mr. Russell, does that prohibit us from bringing suggestions at this time?
No, it's for nominations. If you have somebody that's not in the list that you want to nominate, then nominate away.
And did anyone else want to say anything first, or do we want to go through some of the categories? If you look, we do have the opportunity to nominate 2 individuals for, which we've done in the past. It just means we have to write 2 letters. And so if you're willing to write letters, we can nominate 2 people. What do you guys think? Should we talk about, I'm just going by the order of how it is, NASB School Administrator of the Year, we can nominate 2. Usually there's, when they've made the selection at NASB, they usually divide it into elementary and secondary administrators is how they've usually separated that. So if we nominate 1 elementary and 1 secondary, that would be right in line. Or we could nominate, if we want to, we could nominate 2 at the same level if we want to.
I would like to keep with my nomination that was previous, Mr. Chambers. And the reason being is, as his presentation, like he said, 1,600 students at Carson High School is doable. He's been overseeing 2,300. And so I feel that, with that, I think might have been a reason why we didn't get many applicants, for that Carson High School position, is because it is extremely large. He is very visible. I don't know that I've ever walked into Carson High School and have seen him in his office. He's always in the hallways. The students know him. He's at a lot of other activity, the athletic events as well. Parents know him. I was really sad to see him go from Carson High School, although I know where he is right now. The staff is excited to have him there. So I would like to keep with my nomination for Mr. Chambers for School Administrator of the Year.
I think that is completely, does anyone, Trustee Varner has recommended Cheryl Raquetta for elementary. That gives us 2. Are there any other admins? I think those would both be excellent candidates to nominate. Anybody want to add anything extra on that?
I'd just like to add, I like your description of what Mr. Chambers did. Outstanding, always visible. I like the great explanation.
I think that's good. I think we have 2 nominees for that category, so we'll go ahead and move on. And after, if you are interested in helping to prepare the letters for these, go ahead and claim it now. And okay, we will get that. Okay, let's go ahead and go on to NASB School District Employee. Oh, yeah.
Just so everybody's clear, because we are listed for action, you can take 1 motion at the end
When
this whole process
listing
is
everybody. Okay, that was kind of what I was thinking to do. So I'm keeping notes for that. The next category in it's just the order of how it is the NASB School District Employee Making a Difference. And so Trustee Varner mentioned Mary Prey, and in the notes, Trustee Ramirez mentioned Letitia Servin. We do have the opportunity to nominate 2 individuals for that. I think those are good fits for that, if anybody.
I would agree, and yeah, on that end, and just for Letitia as well. I don't know that I ever see anybody more active in Carson High School as well. She's just everywhere and very supportive of the Hispanic community.
Her services are invaluable at the school. She really is. So, and I think we might have a letter for her already that we can update with some newer stuff. So, so we've got Letitia Servin and Mary Prey. The thing I was thinking of is Mary was telling us that she was presenting something at one of the conference. Was it her mentoring program that she was presenting? Yes, I see Tasha Fuson nodding her head. That would be good to include in the letter. Okay. Okay, so everybody okay with those 2 for that category? Okay, we'll move on to District Level Administrator of the Year, impacting student achievement. Trustee Varner has recommended Dan Sadler. Anyone else have a recommendation? Trustee Ramirez, let me see what you. I think when we talked about it in discussions, we talked about Tasha Fuson. And this could be anyone at the district level who's an administrator. And this is another category where we can nominate 2 if we'd like.
And we have a letter for Tasha from last year, so, I mean, I think that they're both more than deserving, so.
Okay.
I would agree.
Okay, so Tasha Fuson and Dan Sadler. Is everybody pretty good with that? Okay. Next one is Director of the Year. This is someone who serves as on the NASB Board of Directors. There are 17 in the state. I think we talked about nominating Richard Varner because he's our director. Okay. And this one we only get to nominate 1, so it's okay. We only have the 1. Veteran School Board Member of the Year. And last year we were successful. We nominated Dr. Angie Taylor in Washoe County, and she did win, which was kind of exciting. So do we have any nominations for Veteran School Board?
Have we ever nominated from here?
We can nominate, yeah, we can. Stacy won it one year.
Have you been nominated?
Yeah, why don't we nominate you?
Yeah, have you been nominated?
Not for that.
Okay,
But
well,
if
I
you want
nominate
to-
you.
Okay.
What the heck?
Okay, if you want to do that, you could do that. Okay, that is one that we only have 1 thing. New School Board Member of the Year is someone who is in their first year of term. We did nominate Lupe Ramirez, and she won a few years ago, back in 2020. So is there anyone who wants to go ahead, Joe?
I'll make a motion for Molly. I think Molly kind of hit the ground running. You know, she's jumped in and right away dug deep, asked questions, asked for information, all with the best interest of the district and the students in mind. So, Molly, I think you'd be a strong candidate.
I would
Okay.
go along with that too. I'd agree.
Okay. And this is one that we nominate just 1, so I think that would be a good one. Everybody, I'm not hearing any opposition. Individual School Board Member of the Year. This is also someone who has served more than 2 terms. Mr. Casiopo won this, was it last year or the year before?
Last year.
Last year.
How many do you have?
So
can we nominate Mike?
we could nominate Mike. He's in his 2nd term.
He has to serve more than 2 terms or just be in the second
Over the
term?
course of more than 2 terms. So maybe
I don't know if we have anybody that's been on for more than.
I think Joe and
except
I
for
are the
Joe and-
oldest.
Ones.
Okay, so we can nominate Mike. you're a great candidate for this. But if it has to be more than 2 terms, you just are going to have to run again.
Well,
So that's.
yeah, so wait. Okay, but
It's
the
hard to believe
veteran,
Mike's not a veteran school board member.
and
Won enough awards at those things that I'm happy to share the wealth.
school board member of the year is more than 1 term.
Okay.
And then the individual school board member of the year is more than 2. So could we do
You-
Mike for the veteran
And you
and
for
then
the-
you for the individual?
You could do that.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's do that.
Everybody gets,
And then the NASB Award, Friend to K-12 Public Education. This was, Trustee Varner recommended Steve Reynolds. Last year, we did actually win this category when we nominated Harley Davidson. But it doesn't mean we can't win again because they're using rubrics, so that can help. Sometimes we don't win because sometimes they like to, having served on the committee, they like to spread it out among all the districts. But I think Steve is, and as president of the Carson City Schools Foundation, is a good nomination.
Yeah,
so would it be the schools foundation or Steve individually? Could we do the school foundation?
You could nominate the entire schools foundation. And then it could be Steve and the group of them.
I would be okay with that.
Okay, just so you know too, this time the conference is in Vegas, and if we do win, usually the districts have to help pay for travel. So I don't know.
There's quite a few board members.
So we'll see who wants
so-
to come, but
Foundation to do like, a fundraiser or something.
I think though with their support, I think the critical things that they're doing are the support of the Jump Start, the AP programs, and the grants to school, to individual classrooms or departments. Those are really great things. And then the next one is the NASB Innovative Educator of the Year. We did win this last year too. We've won it a couple times. So we have good nominations, so we can try again. Go ahead, Mike.
You know, a couple years ago, we nominated Ananda Campbell, and she certainly does a lot of great things at the high school, so I think she's more than deserving of recognition also.
I like that, and I like the what's that project she's doing that's the history of Carson High School? That is a pretty cool project that could be highlighted in it. I'm just thinking from having read all the nominations for multiple years, anytime there's something, everybody's fantastic. They really are. And I don't mean that to sound like they're not, but when you're reading 17 nominations, having something that is totally unique usually helps quite a bit because everybody is really awesome across the state.
Did we nominate her one other time?
We did. We've nominated
So
her
we could-
before.
Go back on that letter also and update that.
Okay. Okay. You guys, look at how quick we're going through. This is really nice. Okay. NASB Media Award for Outstanding Education Reporting. We nominated on this with our Jessica Garcia, and we won last year. So yay, we are awesome. So, Media Award. Do we have any other media award that we want to?
Would Dan qualify for this?
We talked about doing, I think we talked about doing the student news program at Carson Middle School. And I don't know that we settled on it, but that was a discussion we had either last year or the year prior, I believe.
So I'm not sure if that, I mean, it's awesome, but also Mr. Hostler won for Innovative Educator last year, and the CM News was a huge thing of that. So I'm not sure if that would be, the high school does a news thing too.
Like those kids that do summaries of the school board meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
People have sent me some of those. So, I mean, why not recognize some of our students that are doing the work?
Outstanding education reporting.
Because I'm not sure Jessica wants to go for a two-peat.
Recognize the role of media representatives in television, radio, or online journalism. Okay. Um, okay. The other thought that I had, just, and I don't remember the specific reporter, but you know, the Nevada Independent, their covering of education issues during session was outstanding. And I'd have to look up which particular reporters there were that did it, but they did a really good job with that. That would be,
I still like the idea of recognizing some of our students.
okay.
I mean, there's such a push for CTE, and this is like real world skills, career skills. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah, I agree
And
with
they,
that.
do they fit with online? I mean, it's online journalism, right? Because it's media. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, all they could do was not give them an award.
So what would it be?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Be the digital,
Yeah.
what is it called? Okay, so
Okay.
digital media. Carson High
Carson
School,
High.
digital, okay.
Media, Carson High School Digital Media Program. Okay. We'll go with that. Okay. Okay. Senator now. Okay. Okay, and the NASB School Board Governance Team of the Year. Well, I think
I think we should, because when you see some of these other school board meetings, you watch them. Yes, I think we should nominate ourselves.
okay. And I think we've done a lot of good work in the last year or two that we can highlight in that letter, because we tend to nominate ourselves, except if we've won, then we nominate someone different the next year. But we can update, because we've done some really good things here. And I think that's working in concert with our new superintendent, which is why it's called the governance team. Okay. And NASB board secretary or administrative assistant or other board support staff person. I love that we want to recognize Mrs. Cortez, and I absolutely think she's deserving of it, and she's so deserving of it. She won it in 2020, so I don't know that they would recognize her again if we put it. So is there any other administrative assistant that provides support to the district? Or to the board, not to the, you're a board support person. Last year, we did nominate Dan Davis, I think.
Is he in, so does it have to be, I know the one year we nominated Raymond.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
guess it doesn't have to be
It doesn't,
an administrative assistant. Because they added on, because they consolidated. Remember, it used to be two different awards.
Yeah.
I think is what we came down to. So
board support staff person of the year, vital support board secretaries, administrative assistants, and other support staff play behind the scenes with local school board members and superintendents to facilitate board decision-making and activities to improve student achievement, extend family engagement, and or enhance community awareness.
and just reminding Tasha, as she's pointing out the great work Ryan does.
Yeah.
He told us last year we're not allowed to nominate him for that. So
Because he's a contracted employee, or he's not an employee. He's
We
a
tried. We like
independent
what you're thinking.
contractor. But I agree. I feel like provides valuable support to the board. So I'm wondering, Spencer does provide, is that a support person, or would that be like a district level? I think that would be more district level. Sorry, Spencer, but you're doing great. Who,
well, I mean, I don't have any opposition to nominating Dan Davis again. I mean, he certainly has helped me every time I've had to speak with the media. He's done videos for Welcome Back that when I was the board president that we did for everybody during that COVID year. So, I mean, he does a lot for the district. So, I
well,
don't
and
see
if
why
you look
not.
at like the extending family engagement and community awareness, if those are the criteria they're using, I think that does fit.
And we also have a letter for him, right?
We do. We can update it because he's done more since then. So, okay, supports.
Well, and we have somebody that knows a lot of information about him too.
Well, AJ works with him like every day. I know other information that maybe isn't appropriate for the letter. Sorry, I won't do that. Okay, we are almost done, you guys. This one might be the easiest, the NASB Superintendent of the Year. I'm confident with this, yeah. I do want to say, I think, it's the first year, but the advocacy that he did for us and for all students yes, at the legislature, not just for our district, but for all students and for all staff, district staff across the state has really, it's been really impressive. And I think there's a definite positive momentum in our district, and he's leading that. So, okay, so we can go ahead and make a motion. Did anybody? I wrote them all down. If you want to read mine, or what?
Could I just say that I move that we accept the previously nominated award or listed awardees, whatever?
So it would be a motion to approve the slate of nominees as presented and discussed.
Okay, I move to.
I think before that motion is made, there's probably going to be one abstention on one of the nominees. But other than that, you can move forward.
So I have to disclose, in case you didn't know, Dan Davis is my brother, and so I will abstain from voting on his nomination, but I can vote on the other nominations. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's a motion to
Okay.
approve the nominations as presented, which I think Mr. Walker.
I move that we approve the nominations as presented.
I'll second it.
I will disclose and abstain on the one. Okay. Any further public or any further board discussion on the nominations? Any public comment on the nominations? Seeing none, I'll call. All in favor? Aye. And an abstention on part of it. Does that make, can I do that? Does that work? Okay. Thank you. Yes. After we had the motion, I was gonna do the letters. So, I called the vote. It was all in favor. Yeah, all in favor and me in favor, but abstaining. Got it. So the motion is approved and carries. And so now we can go on to a little bit of assignments before we leave this agenda item completely on who's going to write letters. So everybody raise your hand at once.
I'll work with Mrs. Fuzon on Mary Pray.
I have a letter for Tasha and Ananda.
Okay, wait, hold on. We're getting,
I'll do the letter for Leticia Servin.
I'll do the one for Chambers, Mr. Chambers.
Turned off my mic. Okay, so Mike, I'm sorry, you guys are going so fast. Mike said Tasha and Ananda. Richard said Mary Pray, and was there somebody else you were going to do too? Did you want to do Cheryl Riquetta?
You know, I'm only in town a few more days, and I'm be gone for 10 days. So
Okay,
I think we could use the letter because I think Mrs. Riquetta was also the Administrator of the Year.
oh, okay,
So I think we could use that letter. and
okay,
just-
we'll update that.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe will work on that. Okay, and then Lupe said Letitia, and then did you say, who else did you say? Did you say another one?
I have some bullet points for Mary.
Okay,
So I'll give
You
that
can share.
to Richard, yep.
okay.
I'll do Mr. Sadler.
Okay,
I'll work with Molly and write one for Molly also.
okay,
And then I just wanted to, those of you who have never done this before, if you're writing a letter, make sure you look at the length, well, like there's certain, like it could be 1 page or 2 page with supporting documents or whatever, so kind of look at that, so.
So what you can, like the supporting documents can be like newspaper articles, if you have any that support that, which sometimes there's some good articles like that. Okay, so we got those two, we got these two. Richard Varner, do we have, I think we have a draft. So I can work with the draft that we have for Mr. Varner. And Mike, I can work on your letter too. So I'll do Varner and Mike. For Molly, Mike, you said you do Molly.
Yeah, and I'll work on yours also, Laurel.
Okay. And then Carson City Schools Foundation, who wants to work on that one. And the other thing is Mr. Fueling can help us too. Okay, so we'll do with AJ, and Mike's got that. And then the Carson High School digital program. Tasha, could you help us with that one, and we'll get that going. And the school board governance team. We have something we can revise and update, so we'll work with that. And then Dan Davis, we also have one we can revise and update. And does anybody want to spearhead the drafting for AJ? Okay, I'll work with you on that too, Joe, if you want. I'm saying it, but also I kind of have a busy week next week too, so. So I don't want to have to be there that morning doing it because that's other stuff. Okay, we have
When
finished.
do we need these letters, I guess would be the
When
next
do you,
thing.
when? Okay,
I
so,
know that Director Harris told me yesterday or today that he'd like to have them by the 14th. That's pretty quick.
Monday is the 14th, yes.
Yes.
That's what he told me.
I'll be talking to Rick probably tomorrow.
Okay, so-
I'll verify with him and then
Let
talk to
Renee know, and Renee
Yes,
can send an email out to us to know for
yes.
sure.
So
Okay.
we might have to type
If that's the
quick.
case, I might have to not do anything because I might be busy till next weekend. Okay. Or I can get something done quickly. Okay. We'll get it squared away. We'll make sure we get him turned in, and we will do that. So we'll go ahead and now move on to agenda item 11, which is discussion and possible action to approve a salary increase in fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 for associate superintendents, directors, managers, and other employees not covered by association contracts, with a possible fiscal impact of $416,181 as budgeted for possible action. Mr. Fueling. And I will disclose at this time that I have consulted with our legal counsel because I am related to one of the members of this group, and within the third degree of consanguinity. And I know that word. But Mr. Russell has advised me that because my relation in that group is not benefiting in any different manner than the rest of the group, and because it is not an increase to my household income, that it is okay for me to still vote after I disclose that relationship. So that's what I plan to do. Mr. Fueling.
Thank you, President Crossman. That consanguinity always gets you. All right, thank you. Last board meeting, we brought to you as an agenda item to consider approving increases for non-represented staff of the district, meaning that they're not a part of one of our collective bargaining groups. The requested increase was 11% and 2%, or 11% in fiscal year 24 and 2% in fiscal year 25. One of the I think I'd say clarifications that came out of the last meeting is to the request to see what these positions look like in terms of salary ranges. And so tabling that and bringing that back then. So what you have in your board packets is, and I hope this makes sense, but on the left-hand side of this, you have the different positions listed. In some cases, there's only one position that's associated with a pay range. In some cases, actually, there are all the ones on the first page are. On the second page, you have multiple positions associated with a pay range. And I will note, it was brought to my attention that the McKinney-Vento coordinator salary, not the initial, the fiscal year 23 range. So fiscal year 23 was last year. Fiscal year 24 now is this year. Fiscal year 25 is next year. It was brought to my attention that the numbers for fiscal year 24 and 25 did not seem to line up with the 11% and 2%, and that was correct. So you have received a corrected ad for this evening that has revised numbers for the McKinney-Vento position, so I apologize for that. So I hope this will help the discussion. There's a wide salary range amongst many of these positions. Again, it's a bit of a mishmash across the district, and then some of the district level cabinet and executive team members. So again, the what you see there then for fiscal year 23 is really the salaries that were in place last school year. And then fiscal year 24, those numbers represent what an 11% increase would look like. Fiscal year 25 represents a 2% increase beyond that. So I don't really have any more to present. Just again, historically, this is something that once all of our collective bargaining was done with all our groups and we had approved contracts with all of them, whatever that range of salaries was what was asked then for the non-represented staff members. And so that's really it. So I'm open to any questions or about this or any discussion.
Do we have any questions or comments from board members? Go ahead, Trustee Varner.
On some of these positions that have multiple, I guess, categories of positions, some of them would be topped out, some may be mid-range, some may be beginning range, is that right? I mean, yeah. And then
Sorry, yes.
step 1, I mean, 1 through 10 would be the different steps, right?
That is correct. And you'll, to note, and I don't know that there's any, I don't know the history on going back to when these were all set up, but clearly there's some that have a different number of steps than others. But yeah, you'll find these people scattered throughout.
I'm just going to, maybe I shouldn't, but it seems to me that that would be because these are individual employment contracts with each of the district staff. Is that correct? So that's why some have more steps?
So
And some, or how their contracts are set up vary by the position, and
I
so
don't know.
it's-
I think at the time whenever these positions, yeah, at some point there was one position, likely when Carson City School District was smaller, there was one position set up and a salary range may have had to be created. And then over time, as positions were added, as the district grew, if those new positions came in, they may have been, they would just have been in cases attached to this competitively makes sense with where they would lie. As far as the number of steps, I don't exactly know.
okay. Do we have any other questions? Go ahead.
I don't, it's not so much a question as it is comments as well. So if you look at the teacher salary and the new teacher salaries that, the steps, the percentage of an increase that they received from a master's plus 32, 0, step 0 to P was 9.5%. And I know that we talk about retaining teachers, but they do feel jaded. The teachers that have been in the district for a while, and you lost some as well, and from Carson to Washoe or whatever because of the pay on that as well. And I know the intention was to do the bottom, make it higher, because that was a 15% increase from, first year teacher to this year. We did the first year teachers, we did, more than the 11%, and then at the end, we did, the less. So you have your, the teachers that have been here for, 15 years, 16 years, they're topped out. They can't go anymore. So I know that that was a concern as well, is if there's any way in the future that you can give them a little bit more years to top out. Because right now they're topping out at 80,000. And when you look at the world that we're in today, for a 25-year teacher, that really isn't a lot. When you look at the economy, inflation, and whatever else, and they're topping out, they got a 9.5% raise. I've mentioned it at every meeting as well. The steps are so not consistent. So the most that a teacher step from one year to the next, the most is 1.7%. The minimum is 1.3. But when you look at, you go to your second page and you go to your, capital projects manager, your risk manager, all of those step increases are 3.9, 3.75, 3.8, and 3.9 from one year to the next. That's what those increases are. So I honestly, with those step increases going up that amount for an additional year that they, stay within the district, I think 11% is too high, in all honesty. I want to see everybody get a pay increase. I really do. But when you're looking at step increases for teachers from one year to the next, no credits added, the highest they get is a 1.7% increase. But you're looking at, the second page of these, which are 14 positions out of the 18 that we're asking for 11%. From one year to the next, they're getting a 3.7 to a 3.9 step increase from one year to the next. So I think you have to add that into the 11% that you're giving them, that you're asking us to give them for a pay increase. That has to be part of the equation, I would think. And so that's where I'm going.
But at the same, just like some of the teachers are topped out and they're not getting that every year, there's people in the district that aren't going to be getting those every year. So they might be topped out also.
No, not if you do the math this way. So I'm
So
looking
like
at
if they're
from the
at like
beginning.
step 12,
Yeah, so if they're step 12, they're still getting a 3.8% increase, where a teacher then is, at step 12 is getting a 1.4% increase. It is step 12.
So just to clarify, so let's say looking at that, on that second page, that top group, the capital projects manager, accounting manager, if someone in fiscal year 23 is on the 10th step, and I apologize, there aren't numbers next to it, but it's the last step and it's at 99,423. In fiscal year 24, so they're what we would say in fiscal year 23, they are topped out in fiscal year 23. So in fiscal year 24, they would just stay on step 10. And so not getting a step, because there's just no other step for them to take at that point. So Trustee Walker, I think if I'm understanding, like the idea that, okay.
And so what I'm saying is, comparatively, if you go from, let's say, the first column, fiscal year 24, and you go to step step 9, okay, and you go to step 10, okay, so year 9 to year 10, that's a 3.9% increase. But now if you compare that to a teacher's, and you go from their step to another, you're looking at a 1.45 comparatively. And so I just think that there's such an inequality in between the steps. Because even for your classified, their lowest percentage of a step is a 2.3. Their highest is a 2.7. Your administrators are ranging at a 2.7. But then your teachers are at a 1.3 to a 1.7 from one year to the next. And so then, and if you look at the front page, it is those steps of an increase from one year to the next. They're ranging it really at a 2%, 2%. Chief nurse is a 1.6. But then it's that second page. And so that's why I would ask that we do less than 11% because of these steps.
Okay, Mr. Fueling, just for clarification, have you changed the salary schedule from what it was existing before? So the steps, if you will, for these unrepresented employees, is their step schedule the same as it's been, and you're just looking at an 11% across the board increase and then a 2%?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Superintendent Feely, one of the questions I have is, when we talked about the teachers' schedule, the classified, we settled on a flat amount.
Mhm.
And so then it just kind of balanced out some. The percentages weren't the same, but if it was $7,000 for the teachers, it kind of seems to me, why not just do $7,000 for the executive staff? You know what I mean? Just in solidarity and kind of with the same, I think that would probably make it a little easier pill to swallow for some. But I think that I do want to point out, because I think we've been splitting hairs a little bit, and when it comes, administrators have a tough job, and they have specialized training, and they have responsibilities that are great. And I think if you want good people running your district, you have to pay them. And if you get to a point where people are feeling like we're not respecting the work our school administrators are doing, I think it's hard to find paraprofessionals. It's hard to find a good principal too. It's a thankless job. Well, I'm just saying, but these are administrators we're talking about. And so our job as a school board is to support all employees, starting from our lunch aides to our superintendent. And, to do it in a fair and equitable way to support everybody so that they know we truly support and value the work they do. And so I could agree with what you're saying. If we're saying we're going to give all teachers $7,000, and that's going to vary the percentage for the different people, but it's balancing it out, I think that that's something that I could agree with. But I want to make sure that we truly are telling these are the people that, I don't know, Tasha, I send her emails. I don't have time during the day to reach out to her. I'm sending her emails at night about curriculum and things Carson's doing, and then she's sending me tons of resources first thing the next morning. She doesn't have to do that, but she's on top of her game. She knows her stuff, and she's responsive to everything I ask. And I could go down umpteen people on these lists. And so I just want to make sure they know we value the work they're doing. We appreciate the work they're doing. And I don't want them to feel like we're kind of slapping them in the face. That's my concern.
Yeah, and let me address that, though. So by no means was that ever my intention. My intention from day one, when we started these negotiations, were the steps, and the steps being so inconsistent, from the certified to the administrators to the classified. And they are inconsistent. And that has been, what I've been addressing, meeting after meeting. And I was told that it isn't something that we could change because it was too late in the game. But I want to make sure that it's being heard now. So then 2 years from now, when we do this, you don't forget this conversation to make it consistent. Because the steps, the percentage of the steps differentiate is quite large. You know, when you look at that. And that is where I'm at. I mean, there's nothing about you know, everybody, I believe, and we've done such a great job. You've done such a great job in coming up with this, and Spencer and Dan as well, you know, with all of this. And so none of that is being, you know, I'm not putting that to the side. But what I want to do is just, I think it would be an easy fix, but I know it's too late to just go through all of these and say, okay, everybody, you know, those steps are going to be 2%, boom, we're done. You know, but yeah, so it's just the equality, you know, just to make sure everybody is treated fairly is what I'm asking for.
And I would just say, I think, I understand that you're frustrated with the steps, but that is something that the collective bargaining agreements, which are not what we're deciding here, but those were thoroughly discussed in, I wasn't party to it, but I'm sure they were discussed, and all of that was discussed, and those collective bargaining agreements were agreed to by the groups. The issue that's before us today is not that, because that is settled, that is agreed. This is a recommendation from the superintendent to provide an equitable salary increase to those staff members who are not represented by collective bargaining agreements. So I don't think that going into whatever your feelings are on what the collective bargaining agreement is should hold too much weight on this decision, because this is, I can hear where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think this is something in 10 years, over 10 years that I've been on this board, this is something that our district has done. When there's been an agreement made, whether it was an agreement for no increases, the district employees, that was the same thing. If it was a 2% increase or a 1% increase, that was something that we did. So I think this is something that is Mr. Fuelling's being extraordinarily transparent about by bringing this to us, but it's not something that our district has any history of not going forward with and making sure. I think to do what is comparable as he's suggesting, I think that is something that shows that we do value all our staff, all our employees, because everyone that works in this district is an educator. And I think that I think that is what we're known for, is taking good care of our employees.
So I have a question on that, in terms of it being too late in the process. Is it too late in the process to take a look at this and what that would look like if we made some adjustment to the percent step increases?
So, no, it's not too late. I think so part of the reality with the size of the increases as you go down has to do with the compression of the steps that are there, I think, in that if you're, I mean, really it's, I think if you take a step back from the steps, sorry to use the word twice, and you think of it as a pay range, right? There's a low and a high. We can create as many steps as we want within that pay range to get a percentage increase that we would like to see. But the reality of the range itself, I don't think it changes. So, I mean, effectively, if that was the request,
So
it wouldn't really, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily change the numbers in terms of your top and your bottom. It would add steps in between.
Mr. Fuelling, Mr. Russell would like to
and I don't mean to
make a
interrupt. Just for clarity of what the discussion item is on the agenda, It's solely whether or not to approve or disapprove a salary increase. The board's not taking action on the steps tonight because of the way it's agendized. It doesn't mean that whatever your motion is, you can't say, and next time this comes back, I want the steps to be, on the agenda item and available for discussion. Just a couple things I would point out to you guys for clarity of the record. The term employment contract has been used a lot in these items. It is unique in that there's not a CBA that applies to this group. There's no actual bargained agreement that applies to them. And for the most part, I don't think they have employment contracts. They're generally W-2 employees with job descriptions. I only bring that up for purposes of clarity of the record and to make sure that we don't get into talking about any individuals, that it is still a discussion about the group.
So, but we do have the flexibility, instead of saying 11%, we could say a flat amount.
Yes, as long as it doesn't exceed the fiscal impact that you have in the agenda, you have that flexibility.
Thank you. So how would you feel about that if we matched it to what we did for the certified staff?
So I'll give you an example of where I think a problem lies with it. Well, maybe two. And one, first, you have a pretty wide range of salaries within all of these people.
And I think one thing I wanted to point out is also with just the types of jobs in here, I mean, there is a wide range.
Yeah.
You have superintendent level employees and classified employees that are,
Right.
administrating
Right.
programs. So, I mean, that there is a difference. So,
Sure. So that poses one issue. The other, for example, and I'll go to the high end of the schedule, the executive on the bottom of the second page. If you would increase that by $7,000, I think that amount you end up with would be slightly higher. I think by around $500 from what the top out pay for the Carson High School principal is. Yet the Carson High School principal is an 11-month position, and this is a 12 year-round position. And so I don't know if that maybe sends the right message with that, especially in terms of trying to attract people into some of these positions. And so I don't know. I mean, it's just an issue.
And I do think a flat is an issue due to that from page 1 to page 2. So flat is. But the reason for the steps is, I had asked then, is with that increase from year to year, my question or my suggestion was then not 11%, make it like a 9, because there is such that increase, and that's why I brought up that the steps is from year to year is because there is such a differentiate, amount. So I would suggest that we do 9% rather than like 11%, because then you are getting the ones that, like you said, that might be the classified versus the certified. Then from each pay scale that you look at this, then it is a little bit more equitable for this group.
And I would just disagree with that because the administrators have a different percentage of step increase than the certified, and the classified have all a variety of different increases with a range. And I know it's a little, I think if we're not doing a flat rate, the most equitable thing to do would be 11% like classifieds and the
Certified and admin.
admin. Yeah, I think keeping it consistent that way is most equitable. Yes, their steps are, but they do have more responsibility than and work year round. So I wouldn't I wouldn't want to do a lower percentage for one group than the other.
And I
Before
would,
oh, go ahead,
go
man.
ahead. So, not to go back, I know at the last one, I was the only one that said no to the administrators, and I had my specific reasons that I spoke to Mr. Fueling and Jen Ward about. Through my conversation with Mr. Joel Locke, one of the things that he explained to me as I asked a lot of questions, and I apologize to Joel if I misquote him or anything, but he was talking a lot about fairness and consistency as well. And I think if we do want to be fair and consistent, I think we do need to give the raise that matches the other administrators. That's my personal belief. Just in that fairness and consistency, I think. And then if we do want to readdress it later in 2 years, I think that's my belief where we need to go. But I think we do need to be fair and consistent and matching with what we did with the other administrators. I don't disagree with Molly by any means. Well, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I just think at this point we need to be fair and consistent. And if what Mr. Fueling presents here is fair and consistent, then I think that's what we need to do. That's my belief.
I think one of the issues I have is none of these salaries are out of line to me. In fact, from the lowest paid folks in the district to the highest paid folks in the district, they're all underpaid, quite frankly. But when we look at consistency, we're generally consistent, 11 and 2, except the one group that got 14 and 0. So your lowest group is getting the highest percentage. So I like Molly's concern about that, and I'm wondering whether it's 9% to 11% if do we look at something like a 10 and a 3, 10% and 3% to get us through. Going forward, I do think we should have some consistency in the step increases. It sounds like while we could do something now, it really kind of throws a big wrench into things. And I appreciate the work everybody's done. But I do think when you're looking at salaries, I mean, everybody has a lot of responsibility, there's no doubt. And I get it that when you're in an executive level, you got a lot of extra work to do. But I think everybody in this district, most everybody in this district has a tremendous amount of work to do. And I do see the concern. There's a pretty big discrepancy in overall salaries.
And I am going to address too, though, because when you're talking consistency, there isn't a consistency for the teacher salary. You have to remember your first year teachers are getting 15% increase. Your seasoned teachers at 20, 25, they got a 9.5% increase. So if you're looking at 11%, they didn't get 11%. They got 9.51.
Well, and I get that. I think we have to keep what Mr. Russell said into consideration. Like, that's not the issue tonight. Right. And so like I said, I don't disagree with you. I just think we have to deal with number 11 here. So that's why.
Well, and I think bringing in like steps and columns and that discussion, that's during negotiations with our units. And I think it's kind of confusing the conversation. I think this is truly about the increase. And I think in years past, and I remember my first year, I kind of asked Molly similar questions. And so I get it. I remember being in your seat, it feels like yesterday. So yeah, there's teachers are calling you, some principals are calling you, you're getting those questions. So I get it. I think that we have to look at consistency wise. And so, if all the other employees in the district are getting blank, I think, yeah, but in the long-term view, there's years that the long-term employees got a higher percentage than your first-year teachers. And I commend the district for really looking out for those teachers entering the profession, because when I became a teacher, I took a pay cut. I'm sure you took a pay cut. And so I remember, that the first year you got that little bonus, but then the second year is like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay these bills? And I kept my job, and I had 2 jobs the whole time I was a teacher. So, I mean, the thing is, I get it. I know that you're looking out for retention and fairness and equity, and but I think that we also have to look at our our district administration deserves the same kind of care. And so consistency, support, and an understanding that we have to be part of the conversation. Right now, Nevada is just starting to look at funding for education and pay for educators, and waking up that it's not sufficient. And so if we are truly going to be pushing that envelope as we did this time and supporting that effort, we have to put our money where our mouth is, and that's supporting all of the groups. And so, I mean, I would have a hard time voting no, just because I can't look at Dan or Tasha and say, you don't deserve an increase like everybody else in the district. I barely could look at AJ because we allowed him to say, I don't want an increase, and he's done a great job. So, I mean, there's times we have to make the tough decisions, and I think this is one of them. And so, I mean, I'm going to support AJ as a superintendent, and next time negotiations are coming around, we might want to, as a group, give different kind of marching orders to the district staff as they're doing those negotiations. And we could do that in 2 years or next time they're open. But I think right now, we can't revisit what's already been done. We just kind of have to move forward and do this, probably.
If there are no other comments or questions, this is an action item, and I would entertain a motion.
I move that the Carson City's School District Board of Trustees approve a salary increase for fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 for associate superintendents, directors, managers, and other employees not covered by association contracts, with the possible fiscal impact of $416,181 as budgeted.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll go ahead and second it.
Yeah.
Motion by trustee Walker, second by trustee Varner. Do we have any further discussion among board members? Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-2. We'll go ahead and, oops, I wrote that on the wrong spot. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item 12, which is approval of consent agenda for possible action. And do we have a motion on the consent agenda? Okay. Is there a second? Cassiopo. Motion by trustee Walker, second by trustee Cassiopo. Do we have any board discussion on the consent agenda? Any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And we'll move on to agenda item 13, which is informational items for discussion only. No action will be taken. Do we have any comments or questions on the informational items? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 14, which is requests for future agenda topics. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have the same one. Because I'm just telling you right now, the boys soccer tryouts are at Edmonds. And do you know how hard that is for some of these kids, these freshmen that don't drive, and their soccer tryouts are before? So I just ask again that, can we please get the field allocation on the agenda and how it's allocated?
My mic was off. Any other future agenda topics? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 15, which is adjournment, and we are adjourned.